Argentina take on Poland. We've seen a Messi, Messi, and we're all here to see more of those moments. But Poland managed to find a way through Saudi Arabia without playing a sort of low block. They take on Argentina, who struggled against Saudi. There's some lessons to take there for Poland. They've now put themselves in a situation where you're going, they could potentially progress to the next round, but they've got to take out Messi's Argentina. They'll be the villains of the world if that does happen. Do you see this potentially going in favour of Poland?
No. You can't ever rule out a team that has Lewandowski in it for what he's given football in the previous 15 years. He's just a world-class striker that I think could produce at any moment. But I do have to say, I think Argentina will have too much for them for almost taking away the game from Poland, if you like. I think they'll stay in possession a lot longer than Poland would like, and the longer that I think Argentina stay in the possession and manage to get their creative players on the ball, I think they'll have too much for Poland and cause too many problems. Obviously, I think we're all hoping, like you said, that it's going to be Messi that is producing that, but it could be one of those cagey games again where we might find it difficult to get space and find time on the ball. So you might have to look for some of the more lesser known players or the other attacking players that, like you said, whether it be Martinez up top or even Di Maria, he needs to bring something to the table. I think he's had a poor tournament so far, and you know that what he's done in tournament football before at plenty of the clubs that he's played for. You'd like to see him offer a little bit more.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to be a cagey game. I think that Argentina just have more players that can cause damage in the final third. And if you look at Enzo Fernandez, who came off the bench and he scored like a fantastic goal.
He's getting a move to the Premier League.
Yeah, no, he's really put himself in the shop window. But I feel like if you look at Poland in their first couple of games, it's been cagey and they've maybe rode their luck at times. And I think their luck will probably run out against Argentina. If you did like an 11 of underwhelming or underperforming players, I think Rodrigo de Paul will be in there. I've been like flabbergasted by how poor Argentina have looked in midfield. People talk about Messi not necessarily showing for the ball, not looking at his best. They've not helped him. They've not got the players around him really to make him look the best. And this is, I always compare international football to school football. It's like you've got your best player. They know they're the best player. You've got to facilitate them and make sure they get on the ball and make them as comfortable as possible. And I don't think Argentina have done that. I picked them to win the World Cup at the beginning of the tournament, but then when you see his team sheet against Mexico, I don't know, it leaves you wanting more. You look at Di Maria, who is a great player, but maybe a little bit past it. It's going to be his last tournament. Lautaro Martinez was picked by a lot of people to be the top goal scorer. He hasn't really shown those exploits in this tournament. And so it's not going to be an easy game for Argentina against Poland, but you do expect them just with that added quality up top to come through and get out of the group.
It's also the in-game management as well, is that I felt that Argentina in the first game, it was clear within the first 5 minutes how high the opposition's line was going to be, and they continuously got themselves in offside positions and they was moving the ball too slow and they wasn't looking to go in behind quick enough, let alone maybe bend your runs a little bit more, maybe focus on some of the wide players getting in behind the centre halves. I felt it took them forever in the first half to realise that, by the way, let's be a bit more patient with the runs and a bit quicker with the ball, and we should be creating these chances. I know there was small margins for the goals, but I felt the in-game management of Argentina in both games, even in the second game where it was cagey and they wasn't fluid enough. And I agree that the defensive players that are at the back, that in the back four and the full backs, you get so much of the ball in today's football. You can't just take the fact that you've got time on the ball to then slow it down, thinking, oh, I don't have to do much. The longer you take, the easier it is for the opposition to get set in positions and block those spaces, which is the only way that you're going to get Messi on the ball, unless he keeps dropping too deep, and you don't want him picking the ball up off your centre half. So I agree. I think to facilitate Messi, they need to move the ball a lot slicker.
Well, you mentioned that back line, and Otamendi started both games so far. 34 years of age. He seems to be Scaloni's favourite choice. I think Romero's sort of been... He's come back with an injury, essentially, so Lisandro Martinez has been brought in for him. It feels like Lewandowski's probably, like all good strikers, going to go, let me go up against him. That's the battle that I want. I'll avoid Lisandro Martinez. I won't press him. There's probably a battle there where you go, if there's an area where Poland might be able to trouble Argentina, can we get the ball to Lewandowski? Can we put the ball in the air to Lewandowski? Can he trouble Otamendi? We know Otamendi has a capacity to switch off at times, and Lewandowski is the sort of striker, as we saw against Saudi Arabia, you switch off for a minute, he can kill you. He's finally beaten his World Cup curse as well. I mean, he had tears in his eyes. Fair play. I mean, I won't hold it against him. In this game, do you think that's an area or a battle where Poland might think we can probably win that one?
Definitely, it's about getting the ball to Lewandowski as quick as possible and testing him, or him testing himself up against those centre backs. That's where they've looked vulnerable. I was surprised, like you said, Romero's been injured, and I was surprised that Lisandro Martinez didn't start the tournament in their first game against Saudi Arabia. He came in for the second game against Mexico and looks a lot steadier than Romero, who's probably carrying an injury. But Otamendi starting at this age in this back four, it's so World Cup. You always get these like Frankenstein monsters of teams where it's like, I swear I saw him playing like 8 years ago. How do you still start for a national team that were picked to win this tournament? So yeah, Lewandowski is definitely going to look to exploit that, and it's whether they can get the ball into him. I've slated Argentina's midfield. I expect them to have the majority of the ball. And if they do have the majority of the ball, it's going to be difficult for these Poland players to get the ball to Lewandowski. So I'll pick Argentina to win this game, but it's going to be narrow.
I think if I was Lewandowski, in the build-up play, I wouldn't mind being lined up against Otamendi, because I think Otamendi is not as mobile as what he once was. Although he likes to sort of get tight to his strikers, I think that Lewandowski can exploit that. But then getting higher up the pitch and getting in the box, I would then veer onto Martinez, because I think of the height. And Lewandowski is one of the greatest headers in world football as a 9. So I think in build-up play, I'd be looking to maybe get on the side of Otamendi. But then the closer we get to goal, and once we're arriving in the box, I wouldn't mind veering off to Martinez, who I think's a great size, by the way. But a lot of people moaning about how short he is for a centre half. So yeah, I would be looking at that if I was Lewandowski.
I'm going to agree with you there. He's a great height, Lisandro. Stay confident, my friend. I think the worry there for me is they tend to build up on the right-hand side, so the ball's always coming in from Matty Cash, and more often than not, if you're whipping it in from the right, it's going deep, and Otamendi obviously plays on the right-hand side. So it probably requires Lewandowski to come into that near post. What's been interesting about Lisandro Martinez, actually, for this Argentina team is he actually just stays out of aerial duels. He sort of goes like, midfielder, come and win that for me. Otamendi, run across, I'll just sit in. It's like a very old-school strategy of like, you've got a dominant centre-back, I'll be the one that...
Well, further up the pitch, you can do that, especially from starting. If the opposition is starting with a goal kick or things like that, and they're building up from the back, it's very easy to do that. Getting closer to your goal, it's not so easy. You don't have the time to organise, and also, although you touched on it, Matty Cash is obviously putting in plenty of deliveries from the right. I'd be going to the near post. I'd purposely go towards the near post, and Matty Cash, okay, if you put it over my head, then hopefully me wide left person would be arriving at the back. But I'd be going across the near post, or certainly central to the front post at every opportunity. Why not?
The other key area is Lionel Messi. You've got to stop him if you want to stop Argentina. We've spoken endlessly about this Argentina side. The reality is they aren't a good footballing side at the moment. They rely heavily on Lionel Messi. They've had sort of two types of low blocks to play against. You had the high line defensive structure of Saudi, and then the low block of Mexico. Messi clearly favoured the Mexico one because he doesn't want to be forced around behind, and he doesn't want to drop too deep. In this game, he's going to come up against Gregoric Krychowiak, who, as you said, he's another Frankenstein of the World Cup. He's been around for a long time. Messi's been fouled 3.5 times per match in this World Cup. I see this as a kick him as often as you can, because you cannot stop him. And I'm going to come to you in a second, Jody, because I do want to know how you would stop him. But in this situation, Messi's probably licking his lips, isn't he?
100%. And it's about segmenting the game as well. And if he can get some of those Poland midfielders and defenders on yellow cards early doors, then they sit off, and it allows him to do what Messi does best. We saw it against Mexico, where he was given a little bit of space and he created magic. I'm interested to see I'm interested to find out why Julian Alvarez is not being given the look in terms of starting. We've seen what he can do coming off the bench for Man City, and he's looked good. Obviously Alexis McAllister is starting for Argentina, but I think that's an option they can maybe explore to maybe lessen the burden on Messi in terms of performing or creating in the final third, and alleviate that and putting that on somebody else. So it'll be interesting to see how they line up in terms of that attacking line. But if, like you said, Messi will be licking his lips in terms of the immobile defenders and midfielders he's coming up against, because we know that's where he thrives, and that's where he can create the space and create the magic.
I think the fact that you're right that they're immobile, I think we'll see a low block. I think they'll be more similar to the second game that Argentina played, because I think that if you can't get after teams higher up the pitch and put pressure on whoever's building the play from the opposition, then there's really no way that you're gonna stop the service to Messi anyway. Even though, granted, Argentina need to move the ball slicker and be a lot more efficient in the way that they're moving teams about, but I think that the fact that they're immobile and maybe not the quickest, you'll see them a little bit deeper, and they'll try and employ the fact that, okay, let's get everyone behind the ball and just limit the space in which, if they are going to get the ball to Messi, it has to travel through a couple of lines of defence and also over a bit of distance. The minute the ball has to travel far and has to get to players like Messi with his back to goal, you've got enough time to either screen and block the ball into him, or you've got enough time to put a bit of pressure on him. That's how I would go if I was playing with the Poland team. It's not how I would like to go. I would like to have a little bit more versatile and players with a bit more agility to get after it higher up the pitch. But I mean, I think we've seen for the last 15 years plenty of teams try and line up and stop Lionel Messi, and it hasn't quite paid off.
Yeah. Very quickly, score prediction?
I'm going to go for 2-1 Argentina.
I'll go 1-0 Argentina.
Yeah, I'm thinking 1-0, scrappy goal, Messi leaves smiling. Let us know in the comments what you think will happen in this one.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. And for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.